Hey everybody, welcome to those of you who are joining us from Zoom and those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live. This is a Divan-A-Thon episode and I'm really excited to invite filmmaker Tiffany Shlain to join us. But before we launch in, for those of you that haven't joined us before, I'm Pamela Lavitt. I direct the Seattle Jewish Film Festival, which was sadly postponed, but hopefully we'll have some kind of announcement soon. And also run the Arts and Ideas programs and theater programs at the Strom Jewish Community Center. You can learn more about what we do at SJCC.org or SeattleJewishFilmFestival.org, or you can go to our Facebook page at Seattle JFF. So speaking of upcoming programs, the Divan-A-Thon is inspired by here I am on my couch, and there you are on your couch. And together we get to couch a beautiful conversation with filmmakers every week. And next week, I'm really excited that Danny Menken will be joining us, also from the Bay Area, to talk about the first film in our film festival, 39 Pounds of Love, which won our Audience Choice Award many years ago. And hopefully Danny will be back to show Picture of His Life. And he is now our Real Difference Award winner this year, which is an award that Tiffany Shlain was the recipient of in 2018. So hopefully you'll join us also next Tuesday. This Sunday, we have a new bagel bite that's dropping, Mount Bagel, a little fly-by night. Instagram Bagel Company is the last of our series of 6 bagel makers trying to make it in our area and prove that Seattle does do bagels well. And then I'm really excited that Alan Moranis will be teaching a Musar Institute class on Musar at difficult times, pandemic then and now, and the sages of wisdom that he will bring to Jewish spirituality and teaching around pandemics in the Jewish history and today. So join us for that on May 31st. You can check it all out at sjcc.org. So I'd like to introduce today's welcome guest, and I'm so excited, a longtime friend and obviously an honoree here and has won probably, I think your bio says 80 awards across the country. I'm sure it's many more at this point. But for those of you that don't know her, Tiffany Shlain is an internet pioneer and a pioneer in many things. She's also the founder of the Webby Awards, a renowned filmmaker and activist. She has taken many of us through a provocative and entertaining journey for many, many years through technology and introducing strategies for how we live through a 24/7 cycle of connection and disconnection through technology. Her book, which was published this past year at 24/6, obviously tells us about one day a week that we can hopefully turn it all off. And she was a conveyor of what a technology Shabbat was long before films like Screenagers and and other things that have really traveled the globe to teach us that technology may not be such a great thing if we keep it on all the time. So how do we disconnect? Also, Tiffany, ironically, is joining us for a Zoom talk. And so part of what we'll talk about today is how it is that we're staying connected during these times. Many of you know her work, The Tribe. Connected was a Sundance darling many years ago. She delves into the neuroscience, philosophy, psychology, and history across cultures. So I also just learned that you were named by Newsweek as one woman changing the 21st century. So welcome, Tiffany Shlain. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I had such a great time a couple years ago when you gave me that wonderful award, and I love your community, and it's so great, even though we're on Zoom, that we get to connect. And I found that's been a silver lining of this whole period is I'm connecting with so many people in new ways, which is a good thing.
Well, why don't we just delve in? I want to start a little bit before we go into the sort of your perspective on technology. Just tell us a little bit more about your history with technology.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I founded the Webby Awards in my 20s, and the Webbies just happened today. They showed the winners. So it's always such a surreal thing to watch it because I was in my 20s when I founded it. I ran it for about a decade, and then I sold it to start my film studio. And it still happens every year. They had Michelle Obama. It was just a crazy thing. And it's like a child that you see go off to college. And anyway, so I spent a decade of my life honoring the best of the web and thinking about the way it was changing the way we live and work and culture. And I started making a lot of films about that subject during the Webbies. And then I finally wanted to as soon as films could be shown on the web, I thought I have to stop doing the webbies and I need to be making films and combined with the power of the web. So I love technology. I've always experimented with it early. In fact, my first job out of college was in Seattle when I worked on a CD-ROM about Sting for a company called Starwave back in the early 90s. So that's my Seattle reference. But so I've always been, you know, early using the technology and experimenting and writing about and thinking about it. So you know, and then I've made a series of films. My film studio looks at technology and neuroscience and some Jewish issues and creativity, but technology is always at the core of that.
So I'm just curious too, because it's more than just technology. There's a certain style and approach that you bring to expressing what technology looks like in cinematic animated usage. So there's something about your use of technology that is also different from other filmmakers as well.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, my filmmaking style is very collage-like. That's the way I would describe it, and other people have. And it really was because I went to UC Berkeley for college, and they didn't have film production there. So the only way I could really make films, and I studied film history and theory, and I took a lot of science classes and philosophy. But the way I learned how to make films was to edit together old movies and found footage. And so that really informed my style. I'm so grateful. You know, at the time I was like, oh, I can't afford to go to NYU or, you know, whatever it was. And now I'm so grateful that I had that creative constraint of no film production at your school, figure out how to make a movie. And of course, now with people's phones and what they can do on the internet with found footage, I mean, it's like the world is like a treasure chest of images to make movies from. But back in the day, it was much harder to do that.
There's something about the work that you put into that pastiche, that collage, that also has mapped quite a bit with your Jewish values as well.
Yes.
And so I'm just wondering how those have mapped for you, if at all. I know The Tribe obviously was a film that exploded across the world, beside the fact that it started with a large globe in it. But can you just talk a little bit about the process of your coming to that film and the idea of synthesizing those images, live performers and kind of cutting edge Jewish performers with that technology conversation?
Well, that film, I'm so glad you brought up The Tribe, because, you know, my husband, Ken, and I wrote the script together, and it's still, I mean, just in the last 2 months, it's being shown in 2 retrospectives in Jewish film festivals as like them going back their 30 years of the festival, and they're choosing that. And we are so happy with how much it's held up. It was really Ken and I wrestling with our American Jewish identity. And like you said, all of my work is like, I'm trying to pull together all the parts of culture to represent something. So I had the Hebrew Mamita, I interviewed people, I made a lot of animations with an animator. And I think all of my issues, I'm trying to tease out the essence of what I'm grappling with, whether it's American Jewish identity, or I made another film called The Making of a Mensch, which also, speaking of Alan Morenas, he was an advisor on it. But I'm always trying to get to the essence of something in all these different strategies. And I'm actually making a film right now about the whole pandemic situation. And I make something I call now cloud film. So this is The Making of a Mensch. Yeah. That's a 10-minute film. The Tribe was 18 minutes and Making of a Mensch is 10. And I should say, I've only made one feature that was 80 minutes, but most of my films, I try to really condense and get the essence in a short amount to kind of inspire you to go on your own journey. So I'm making a film about the pandemic, and I asked through my email list and on social media, I asked people 3 questions. What are you most scared about? What are the best acts of creativity and kindness you've seen? And what do you think is the best that can come from this? And we've gotten amazing answers from all over the world. And then right now I'm in the process that you're bringing up, which is I'm now trying to I'm pulling all these like amazing things I've seen on the web and news clips and social media things. And I'm trying to like give an essence of this crazy scary, creative, unusual moment in history that we're in, and trying to put my arms around it. That's usually always what I'm trying to do, is just put my arms around a very complex situation visually and with words and music. And
yeah. Well, it's interesting. You talk about trying to like get a grip and boil down the essence. What's happening for a lot of us is, while your technology Shabbat idea is, and unplugging is really important, we're actually losing a sense of the 24/7. Like the days of the week are feeling like they're just pouring into each other. Yeah. And to some extent, the technology, like this appointment today, marks my time, which is interesting, a different reversal.
Well, I have to see, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, it was very interesting because I know we're on screens for everything right now. We're on screens for school and social and work. And a lot of questions that surprised me at the beginning of the pandemic was, oh, you're not still doing your tech Shabbats during the pandemic, right? And just to define tech Shabbats, is my family and I, for 10 years, we turn off screens from all screens, from Friday night to Saturday night. And I have to say, I almost look at them like they're a crazy person when they ask me that. I'm like, have I still been doing it? It is my saving grace. It's like our favorite day of the week. It is the only day of the week that I am not exhausted, where I'm happy and liberated and not stressing about the news, and I'm not feeling like I'm suffocating, which is kind of a feeling I have a lot. It's the one day that my family and I, we're not all up in our separate screens and worlds, and we're connected and we're present and we're grateful, and all the things that make me happy happen on my tech Shabbat. So I feel like it's been 10 times more important. And I've done a couple Zoom talks about that. There's been like a whole renewed interest in, because I think people are looking for boundaries around screens. And we have this very built-in boundary from the history of our people, Shabbat. And it's never been more relevant to keep you healthy and mentally healthy and grounded during this period.
So I think it's a perfect lead in, so we can go back to when you produced the series about technology Shabbat, but maybe we can go ahead and let Catherine play that clip, and
Sure.
We'll talk more in a moment.
Yeah.
I love technology. Like everyone, I'm totally addicted. But it's also consumed all of my time, where I feel like I'm constantly responding to everyone and not really responding to myself in some ways.
But a few years ago, I started thinking a lot about time. My father was dying of brain cancer, and sometimes he only had 1 good hour a day. So it made me think about how little of time we have. And during that time, my family and I decided to completely unplug from technology 1 day a week. We call it our technology Shabbats. We've done it every week for more than 3 years.
And it's completely changed my life. I'm Tiffany Shlain. I'm a mother, filmmaker. I founded the Webby Awards. And this series is about how the future doesn't start somewhere far off in the distance. The future starts here.
Nice.
That's so funny to watch.
Well,
that. I'm wearing the same, I'm wearing a different hat.
What year is that from, Tiffany?
Well, I said I'd been doing it for 3 years, tech Shabbat. So there you go. That was about 7 years ago.
So now you're at 10.
I'm like, my hair's about the same length. I've got a different hat on. No, but my thoughts about it only have magnified. I mean, at that point, it just, the benefits keep getting better and better. And then the longer we did it, the more addicted everyone in society became. So everyone's looking down at their phones. And so then, let's say I have a copy. Anyways, that's my book over there. I finally wrote it down, 24/6. Let me go grab it. Wait a second.
Yeah, I got a copy here.
Look. And it was really exciting to write down and think deeply about all the benefits, because there's kind of the immediate benefits of like, it gives you a sense of time. You know what day of the week it is. It slows down time on this one day. But then over doing something for 10 years, I've noticed like how much more creative I am. All my best ideas come on Saturday. I mean, I'm a journal keeper, so I know exactly when they happen. They're always on Saturday. I'm more productive. I feel happier. I sleep well, and I have problems sleeping. I sleep the best on Friday nights. So the benefits just kept multiplying. So it was really exciting to take the book out, and a lot of people are now doing it, Jewish or not. And I should say I'm like a spiritual atheist. I'm not a religious Jew. I'm not coming at Shabbat
in anything except a great awe and love for the ritual and the tradition. And I think that that's a really important and exciting part with the book, is I'm trying to liberate it from just being, the only people that I knew that did a full day of Shabbat, 25 hours, are Orthodox Jews. Most of my friends, they did a Shabbat meal, occasionally lit the candles, but no one I knew really did a full day. So what was most exciting to me is, after doing a full day for 10 years, being like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. And everyone should do it. Jewish, not Jewish, culturally Jewish, whatever, Catholic, like try it. Just like I do yoga and meditation, and it's like amazing. This is a ritual that brings great joy and balance back into people's life. And I really talk a lot about how to get your kids on board or your partner on board. And now I have all these people that now do it every week, and which is fun, because I just feel like it's this free, ancient, amazing practice that can change your life. So that's been a really meaningful message to get out before the pandemic, and now during the pandemic. I'm like, this will help your health.
Well, you've been talking about this, for like 10 years, really. And this is like a super, I don't think everyone realizes how much you kind of coined this phrase, right? Technology Shabbat, and that it is almost across JCCs and celebrations. This is a language that it's the Kleenex of technology Shabbats, right? But I love that with the publication of your book 24/6, there was a resurgence. I mean, even I love some of the things people had to say on Goodreads about it. One woman said, this is one of 6 books that will help my New Year's resolution stick, which is great.
Yeah.
Another person just called you very persuasive. And this one I love. 24/6 doesn't shame the reader, and it doesn't minimize the importance of technology in our culture. It just welcomes us to imagine a different way of living.
Yeah, I think that is, I think I love technology, and there's so many things that I think are amazing about it. I just don't think it's amazing 24/7. And I think we need to create these boundaries in order to have a healthier relationship. Sorry, my computer's about to run out of juice. I'm going to plug that in.
Yeah.
But there we go. Yeah. And I think, and then I have a lot of strategies in the book for the other 6 days, because as the longer I've been doing this, I've been figuring out all these like little things that I do throughout the week that make things better. I don't look at my phone when I wake up. I journal. I have rituals before I go to bed too. And I think, it's not good to wake up and look at the news, or to look at emails or social media. It's not a good way to start your day, is to let all the stress of the world set the agenda for your day. And the news is so stressful right now. How can we empower ourselves to set the tone, the beginning and the endings of our day? And with our family time, and say, this is sacred. It's going to be like family day. Or if you live by yourself, I'm just going to not respond to the world right now for a day. I'm going to be more inward. And I think what Alan Marinas, going back to Musar, and a lot of it is about character development and spending time in your inner world. We're so external and we're connecting all the time, which is great. But I think to the detriment of reflection and quieting the noise. And I think that I want to live in a society that values reflecting and being more inward and connecting in a quieter way.
So you were starting to say about how, you've had such an arc from the film about technology Shabbat, the episodes for AOL, all the way to this book. What has shifted in your thinking? And then has the pandemic somehow been this other coda to your thinking about it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. February 15th. So for like 5 months, I was focused. So the book came out. It was extremely exciting. And then I got this opportunity. MoMA in New York asked me to premiere this thing I've always wanted to do, which I call spoken cinema, which is like a kind of a one-woman show meets like cinema behind me. And it was all about my journey with tech Shabbats. I worked so hard on that. The show was called Dear Human. It premiered February 15th in Manhattan, packed, sold-out theater. It was one of the most exciting nights of my life. And I thought that I was going to spend the next 2 years touring the world with the show, Dear Human, all about technology, the pros and cons of technology. And then the pandemic happened, and whoa, I mean, obviously those plans just changed. And, you know, I started, I always bake challah on Fridays, and with my girls, and my daughter said, well, why don't we just do it on Zoom? And we invited other people. And now every Friday for the last 9 weeks, I do a Zoom challah bake, which I invite anyone watching to join me. And you can find out all the information just on my site at tiffanyshlain.com. And we have had such an amazing time. We have people from Italy, we have people from Berlin, all over the United States, Seattle, Canada, and it's anywhere from like 50 to 150 people. And then they all post their challahs online. And it has just been such a joyful transition. So if you would have told me the night of my MoMA premiere in New York, actually, Tiffany, you're going to be doing a baking show, I would have just laughed. But it's all, you know, it's all the same thing. I have special guests each week. We have amazing, amazing people come on. And I think if you were look at the thread of all of my work, it's about when does technology amplify who we are? So the hollow bake, I would say. When does it amputate who we are? And I'm very interested in building community and in experiences. And the Zoom hollow bake has been an amazing thing. Like you said, I get dressed up. I have set up the camera. We make challah with people. We laugh. We talk about what people are going through wherever they live. And it's, we talk about the pandemic and life. And it surprised me that this is what I'm doing, but I'm feeling grateful. And I will take Dear Human on the road at some point in some fashion, maybe at a distance in a very big theater. I don't know, but.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about Dear Human? Because I know, I mean, a couple of years ago when you were the Real Difference Award winner at the Seattle Jewish Film Festival, which, by the way, is an award for filmmakers like Tiffany who make a real difference by doing social justice and your activism. And we haven't even talked about how much your films are connected to everyday activist days like Character Day and all of that. So you can talk a little bit about how your film has this kind of ability to just zoom across the world. So I'm not surprised that your hollow bake is also doing the same. But Dear Human and Spoken Cinema, you did a Spoken Cinema.
Yes, and actually that was a pivotal night. Okay, so I have experimented a lot with what I call Spoken Cinema. So at your festival, I was reading, okay, what I did is from one of my movies, I narrate a lot of my movies. So I took out my narration and I was on stage and I read the movie as it played behind me. I live narrated it. But there was someone in your theater who gave me some feedback and he said, after I just heard you give this talk, and so naturally and on stage, and then to hear you go to script was very awkward. It felt stiff, and he was totally right. And so after that, what I ended up doing was have the movie played behind me, but it's much more natural sounding, like I'm speaking to you, but I'm taking you on this whole journey in a very natural way. But there's a soundtrack, I have someone running sound cues, and the movie clips playing behind me. So that night was a really instrumental night in my journey of figuring out how to do spoken cinema. So thank you.
That's awesome. See, Seattle is a pit stop on your journey, and I'm glad
it's fertile soil for me.
It is. Well, that just means that we're like on the signposts along the way. You just have to keep coming back as often as possible. So tell us a little bit more about kind of like you have a lot of different websites, a lot of different projects. You have Let It Ripple, Moxie. You know, there's a lot of activity that is like very, I love how you have like sort of this volcanic eruption, you know, with birds flying. You are a volcanic eruption of ideas. So tell us a little bit more about what are these different projects? How do you distinguish the Let It Ripple studio from Moxie Institute or your films? There's different aspects of who you are. So what are you focused on now at this point, or are these things that happened in your past, you know?
No, that's a great question. I mean, for a huge part of my identity, it was all like Webby Awards, right? That was like the first decade of my career. And then it was the Moxie Institute where I made The Tribe and Connected, and that was my for-profit, and that's such a joke because independent filmmakers don't make any money, but, and then I made Connected through Moxie Institute. And then from that, we decided to start a nonprofit called Let It Ripple that was gonna make films for nonprofit organizations for free. And we've made, that's how the Cloud Film started. So we made, that's just my personal site. But
I'm showing all your various pages here. Yes.
That's my Tiffany Shlain, the Webby Awards. Yeah. And then Let It Ripple is my film studio. And we've done these global events called like Character Day, 50/50 Day about gender equality. And we're working on a new film, a Cloud film right now. We've made films about technology. And those are all given away for free. And for school, we had over 200,000 groups sign up for Character Day. So this is global events that use our films to trigger important conversations of our day, either about gender or character development, menschiness, whatever it is. They're all usually trying to rise humanity up more. So I still have, and then Tiffany Shlain's just like the home of it all. And then my book site has become very robust because that's like where my hollow bake lives, because it's the one recipe in this book is my hollow recipe. It's very yum. I have to make it for you sometime, Pamela.
Love it.
But so yeah, I mean, I've always struggled, like, should I just have one site? But they're all whatever. I'm 50. There's different parts of who I am. There's like my nonprofit giving back work. There's, you know, my one site, Tiffany Shlain, that has kind of all of my 30 films, and my art projects and my MoMA stuff. So it's yeah, I hope to always be evolving who I am, and there'll probably be a lot of offshoots of that.
Can you, how do you, you've made films that are interactive too. You've invited people to upload their own things. So how does that work? What's the relationship that you as a filmmaker have with people who decide to participate, like students or people from across the globe? How do you bridge that relationship?
I feel like I'm doing a call and response. I feel like I'm wrestling with some big question about humanity or society, and I couldn't possibly figure it out on my own. And I want to know what everyone thinks. And like, let's just wrestle with it together. And Jews are so good at just like wrestling with an idea. So I want to do it with everyone. And I want to hear perspectives from all the different continents. And that's very exciting to me. And then again, I'm always the visuals. I'm trying to put my arms around the complicated subject. Trying to give it a big creative hug. Yeah.
So you've made films that are also important for like women in power. And can you just talk a little bit about your decision to make films on particular important days like Women's History or Character Day? You've created this sort of day, there's a film for that day, and it inspires something for people to actually go out and do in the world. Were you the first person that really thought through that concept?
I think so. I think it was always that whenever you saw a really powerful documentary, there's so much energy to do something after that. And I thought, well, what if I, like the film 50/50 you're showing, what if I show this film? This is a 20-minute film about the 10,000-year history of women in power. And what is it going to take to get to a more gender balanced world? So if I show that, and then I show all these organizations that are working towards that change, and I have a big global Q&A. So it's not just me, but you know, we had women presidents, we had activists, we had leaders, and we all were in this global conversation, which ironically, my global days are perfect during pandemics because they're from all over the world. And in a lot of ways, we were doing all of these kind of global conversations for the last like 8 years. So I've always wanted to experiment with how do you use the web for the best, which is bringing people together on a common issue like gender equality. And our films are shown in a lot of schools all over the world.
So what is the thing that, you know, what's a typical amazing day for Tiffany Shlain? Like getting ready for the new dog.
Okay, yeah, the puppy. We're so excited. We're getting a puppy in 4 days. But my favorite day is Friday because I wake up early. I feel very creative from like 5 to 7 in the morning. So hopefully I'm writing before the world's woken up, before my family's woken up. Then I've been preparing for the holiday with my girls and with people from all over the world, some that come every week and some new people. And then check in with my filmmaking team. My producer lives in Maine, and we're all kind of remote right now. And then have a great holiday. And but that's like, Friday's not really a normal day, but it's my favorite day. And then, you know, I prepare, we do a lot of cooking. We usually have people over. We're not doing that now. And we have a wonderful discussion over Shabbat. But I think my weeks have a rhythm to them. You know, I used to go into my film studio, but now we might not keep our film studio. It's so weird. You're talking to me in such a transition liminal state of like, what's this next chapter going to be? But I'll tell you, the thing that grounds my week is the Shabbat. And my day right now, and I hope everyone listening can hear this, is that I think we all need to forgive ourselves and have a lot of compassion. It's very hard to get a lot done these days, and I think that's very real. And I'm working on a movie right now that's taking me a lot longer than I thought, and I was getting so mad at myself that it wasn't moving forward, and I was like, we're in a pandemic, so you got to forgive yourself. And yeah, so I heard this great thing that I want to share. During my holobake last week, we had David Sachs, who wrote Revenge of Analog, he wrote Save the Deli, and his new book is called The Soul of an Entrepreneur. And I was asking him his advice as we're kneading dough with like whatever, 60 other people from all over the world. What kind of wisdom do you have from your book, The Soul of an Entrepreneur? And he said, you know, this is our grandparent, like it's in our DNA. Our grandparents all came over, they didn't speak the language, they maybe couldn't do their profession, and they had to kind of figure out this new world. And I just love that. Like it's in our DNA, and we're in a new world right now. Everyone's going to have to figure out how to do things differently, but I always have felt very flexible and nimble and adaptable. And we're in a stage where everything's kind of changing. But you know, my family, in terms of, you asked me about my favorite day, I mean, I'm in heaven kind of being with my family so much. I mean, of course, there's also always there's all the other stuff too, but overall, I feel really grateful that we're healthy, that we can all be together. And, you know, my brother is a doctor, and he's been, you know, he was volunteering in Queens in a fever clinic there. And I'm grateful that he's healthy, and just whenever I get stressed, I try to feel gratitude.
Yeah. I think there's so much that you've done in your work that creates ritual and rebalance in our lives. So it's good to hear that, you know, those tools are also there for you when you need them, and remind yourself of them. And maybe we can just kind of close on, if there's something else that, you know, there's so much I could ask you. You're just such an incredibly talented and fascinating person. And I'd love to ask you more about, you know, Jewish values and how those are changing. And obviously you reach out to Jewish thinkers to help, you know, support the things that make you connect to others, which is an interesting thoroughfare that you've created. But is there anything else, Tiffany, that you've been just sort of thinking about family, about what's important right now, or your creativity that you want to take us out on?
I think one thing I would say, I watched a documentary about the Spanish flu on PBS. It's a little dry, but my favorite parts were the journal entries of people during the Spanish flu. And I hope that everyone listening can maybe get a journal and write down what you're thinking, because it has happened before in history, but it's probably only going to happen once in your lifetime. And I feel like it'll be a real missed opportunity if we don't really write down what we're thinking. So it's not all done on email and text and Zoom, but we're taking a moment to write down what we're thinking for our great-grandchildren, for the future generation, of what this was like. What was this time like? Because it'll be the favorite part of the documentary about this period. I do think about that. I think it's a real opportunity to try to, even if you don't know what you're thinking, and it's very valid, but I think trying to put on paper, not on a computer, a longer record of what we're experiencing is a good thing right now.
Yeah. Well, if the future does start here, it definitely starts. I love your concept of the Cinemagilla, and maybe we all need to, we're not all filmmakers, but we can clearly tell our stories and capture them.
Yeah.
So I think that's very empowering. But you continue to be just such an inspiration. I think it's amazing that you published a book, that your MoMA show opened. You know, Seattle will bring it here whenever you're ready.
Oh.
Yeah. And just wanted to thank you and thank everybody who's joined us today for our quick Divan-A-Thon couch conversation with Tiffany Shlain.
I always
Be
love
safe, be well.
talking to you. Thank you.
You know what? I'm going to leave this on a photo that I have of you and your daughters visiting here. And I know that they're a couple of years older, but it is, if anything, right, it's about our daughters and the things that they're doing to continue the legacy.
I'm excited to see it.
So here's the photo of Tiffany's amazing daughters who joined us back in
it was a girls' trip.
2018.
Oh my
Fabulousness
God,
clearly
so much
continued.
fun.
So hopefully one day we'll all be together again, right?
I would love that. So good to see you, Pamela. It's so great.
You too,
Thank
Tiffany.
you.
Take care. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And as Tiffany said, our talk with Alan Moranis is going to be all about the 1918 pandemic, literally.
Tell him I said hi. Tell him I said hi.
I definitely will. And I think that there's so much to say of the wisdom, you know, of people in our sages, including, you know, Tiffany today. But obviously, Alan will have something to say about it in the past. Thank you so much, Tiffany Shlain. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.